Hello everybody, I'm back again, and I want to say first, I meant to post this video a few days ago, but I kind of slacked off on it because, it was like Sunday, and I was tired. I had done a lot of stuff that day, and then I figured, oh, I'll just do it, after school tomorrow, and then I didn't do it, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do it today. So yeah, I'm doing this video today. But I decided I would make a video for like a Q&A like series kind of thing, right? Since I've already gotten a question on like my first video like a month ago that I hadn't actually seen until a couple weeks ago when I actually figured out what I wanted to do with my channel. So I decided that yeah, I'm going to do a Q&A for that. I'm going to do a Q&A for that because I can't exactly just make a video on that topic like purely. I mean, I am technically for this video, but I can't just like make a video only on that topic because I just feel like it's really vague and like as a question, and I can't just like only cover it in one video kind of thing. I mean, I can. That's what I'm going to do. But I figured I should make a video for questions that people ask me, and if the questions, sorry, if the questions like a hard, like really hard to answer or something, I might make it into a normal video that I would do, right? But I'm gonna start with like a Q&A thing. I keep blinking my left eye when I talk. I don't. It's weird. My friend noticed that at school. Yeah, sorry. Um, but yeah. So, like I said, video series Q&A. So yeah, let's start with the first question. I wish you could make a video about what you were like as a teenager or about how to spot a male INFJ. Because I'm trying to figure out if a guy is an INFJ, but I'm skeptical because he seems extroverted. But he was like the quintessential INFJ when he was. Okay, I see. So, as I can tell, from what I can tell, you're trying to, because I mean, this is all from memory because I can't look back at the question, but you're trying to figure out if this one person you know is an INFJ, but he seems really extroverted, so you don't know for sure, right? And that's why you want to know, as a teenager, what being an INFJ is like. For I'm still a teenager, um, and so you or like how to spot a male INFJ because you want to know for sure, right? That your friend here is an INFJ. I want to say it's not that simple because I mean, like I said, I think before in the video, this question is fairly vague, so it's difficult to kind of like definitively answer this. If I don't know if I used that word right, definitively, whatever. Um, it's very difficult for me to answer this because it's like I'm repeating myself. It's late. I'm sorry. It's vague and it's difficult to answer, so I'm gonna try to answer it the best I can. So you can't exactly just kind of spot out a male INFJ because you have to think about it in terms of the cognitive functions, and then it just gets like really complicated, and you get into type theory and stuff. I don't know if you're like I'm kind of stereotyping here, but if you're the kind of person who just kind of takes the test and is like, oh, this is really cool, this is personality, right? This is my personality, and then you kind of look at the vague, like, or not necessarily vague, but sort of the stereotypes for it if you actually delve into or if you're like on the other side and you actually delve like into the functions and try to find out like how it works because I don't really know for sure based on like this comment. It's difficult for me to kind of answer it. So I mean like typing someone is not really simple to do. Like I mean I wouldn't call it simple. I mean I type people myself fairly quickly, I guess. Not like instantly, but after knowing them for a while, I can kind of tell sometimes. But I mean, it's not like you just kind of know. You have to think about it in terms of the cognitive functions, right? I'm shaking my phone a lot. It's because I'm like waving my hand down here. Like you have to think about. Okay, I'm sorry. You have to think about it in terms of the cognitive functions. So, like, for example, I recently typed for myself, right? I typed my anatomy and physiology teacher, right, in my head. And he's probably like my favorite teacher, like one of my favorite teachers at school this year. So I typed him in my head and I came out with INTJ. And the reason I came out with this, and I think I have fairly sound reasoning, is because I did notice his sort of philosophy in a sense for the class was a very extroverted thinking like esque um, way of looking at it, because it was basically just like it was just flat out like blunt like um here's how you think about it. You think about it in terms of how this is like I guess it's easy to remember, but you think about it in terms of survival and reproduction, and that's it. And then it's just sort of like a philosophy, like not I wouldn't say full on philosophy, but it's anatomy and physiology. It's like you think about all of these in terms of survival and reproduction, and then so he even mentioned some behavioral traits, which is more of a psychology thing. But he mentioned behavioral traits and like why do you have friends? Oh, it's because it's for the survival thing. Like you have a group of people that you're with, right, that you're friends with, and it sort of like serves as protection in a sense and for emotional and mental support because people can get depressed and being alone. We're social creatures. And so if you think about it just in terms of like survival and reproduction, it can be kind of like, in my mind, that's kind of depressing or grim. I need something I can like set this on. Is there something I can find? Maybe if I lean back. I don't know. I'm in my room, kind of. Um, but yeah. So I thought of I noticed an extroverted thinking, or I don't know very many people with extroverted thinking, so this is just what I think extroverted thinking is, and that's just what I've noticed, right? And it's what seems like extroverted thinking. And it seemed like he had an introverted intuition, like dominant function, because of the way he perceived things, as the way he presented it was in the same way that he perceived it, I think. So in a sense, he perceived. I could tell. I mean, like the way he delves really deep into subjects. Like he. This is why I think it was introverted intuition. Because if he was a sensing type, he probably would have been like my ESFJ teacher, um, who like basically will just focus on the rules sort of for it and just like here are the rules. As long as you follow these, it's good. And then, but I mean, like my INTJ teacher focused on actually teaching us the material, and he was a great example for it. Like he had a really well thought out. Like he was very he seemed like a deep thinker, and I don't like to stereotype like that. Like INTJs are deep thinkers or anything, but I think the way in types perceive things, and more particularly like I introverted intuitives, right? Intuitive types, the way their focus is around ideas, and generally that can lead to philosophical topics. So I think that's where that stereotype comes from. But like from what I noticed, um because he really pounded in like I'm going to actually teach this to you. I'm not just going to have you memorize and write down a definition that you don't understand, right? Like he put a word in Spanish on the board and put the definition in Spanish, right? And I no none of us understood it except for the few Spanish speaking students, right? And we didn't understand what it meant. And he's just like, okay. I mean, as an example, I mean, I'm totally like, this is not how he said it. He made it sound so much better. But it was sort of like, okay, so if you copy this down in your notes and then you like turn that in for a grade, and I give you an A plus, is that did you even learn this? Do you even know what this means? Can you describe to me what this means? It's in Spanish, and we didn't know what it meant, obviously. So we'd have to stop and think about it instead of just writing it down and turning it in and getting a good grade, which I think is great because I actually hate the school system in America and the UK. I absolutely despise our school systems. So yeah, I really like that. He's actually teaching us, and it's really interesting. I like it. So, I mean, that's how I came out with INTJ, because I noticed the introverted intuition because I use introverted intuition. I think that's why I noticed it. It's just so difficult to explain. Um, and I noticed extroverted thinking, and I noticed those were the dominant and auxiliary functions, and I noticed a stronger introverted intuition. It seemed like he was more focused around introverted intuition than he was focused around extroverted thinking as his sort of main thing. And I mean, he talked a lot, but then again, he's a teacher. He's kind of supposed to. It doesn't make him extroverted to like generally if he talks a lot. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I came out with INTJ for that, and the typing in my head was it's a very complicated process because you have to notice the functions that they tend to express more, or that you kind of notice maybe them not expressing it, if that makes sense. Like introverted intuition wouldn't be a function that's expressed in the objective world because it's subjective. But yeah, so that's how you come up with the type, is you have to really just notice what they extrovert, for the most part, and then kind of judge, whether they're an introvert or an extrovert. You just have to kind of think about it a lot. It's complicated, and I can do it fairly quickly in my head because I'm so used to this. I mean, well, I probably studied this less than most people, but I've only studied like this stuff for a year. It took me forever to actually get to my current idea of the definition for the functions now. So I mean, yeah. But anyway, you can't exactly. I mean, I know your supposedly INFJ friend, right? Seems extroverted, but that's probably just because he talks a lot. Like I talk a lot. I talk a lot to the people I know really well. And extroversion is not about how talkative you are, and introversion is not about how quiet you are. Those are stereotypes. Extroversion is actually more about, and I think I talked about this in my definitions video. Extroversion is about being objective about things, so it's centered around the object, right? Thus, introversion is the subjective self. So while that can lead to being more quiet because you prefer to be in your own inner world and focus the focus is on yourself, right? And extroversion is you may be more talkative. Am I blinking? Extroversion, you may be more talkative because your focus is on the objective, the object, the things that are in front of you, and real. And what I mean by that, because that can differ, because extroverted intuition is obviously going to be focused around ideas and not concrete things, but it's still an objective idea. It's the object. It's not your own ideas. It's the ideas that you're exploring. That I've read an article about it, so that it's like they talked about it being they talked about it being akin to like drinking wine, right? Like the extroverted and intuitive will drink maybe like a little bit of one wine and then like throw it away before he finishes it because it's not the best wine. He wants to taste all of the wine, all of the wines he wants to taste, right? He wants to try and sort of you know kind of experience a bunch of different wine. It's broadening. It's about the object, the other ideas, and then the introverted intuition is sort of your own ideas because it's the self, right? It's the perceptions that you come up. Well, I wouldn't say you come up with it because it's perceptions, but it's like sort of a perception of yourself, or because it's a perceiving function. I like to think about it as your subjective impression of the object. So, like you would take in an object. Um, a lot of people think it's through inferior extroverted sensing for like INFJs and INTJs. Um, but you kind of take in the information and it's the way you're perceiving it is through connections, and it's not like you're not actually perceiving the object itself. You're perceiving it through the lens of your subject, if that makes any sense. Um, but yeah, so like I said, if you want to type your friend, you have to think about it more so in terms of functions and things like that, and you have to think about all the different aspects of like what could this really be, I guess, if you understand what I mean by that. Like, yeah, I think I've explained myself. I did give examples for how to type, and I told about typing in INTJ. With extroverted feeling though, you want to notice that you're probably noticing extroverted feeling, as if he seems extroverted, it's probably just him talking a lot, and I mean I do the same thing. So like, I mean, oh, I also thought about it like this. I read somewhere that this I don't completely agree with this because I notice all of the functions in my everyday life and I'm still a teenager, but supposedly the functions develop in order from dominant to inferior, which I personally disagree with. But I mean, if we go by this theory, um, if he's still like not 30, because it's like until you're 30, it like you start developing introverted thinking, but like it starts out when you're a kid, you're developing introverted intuition, which would make sense. The first two functions start like being in order, but the other two I think kind of came with the auxiliary. But I'm skipping ahead kind of. I talk a lot. So I remember when I was a kid, um, all the stuff they talk about like on the personality page, I think is what it's called, something like that, where they talk about the development of the functions. it makes sense for me, like with the introverted intuition and then extroverted feeling now at adolescence, sort of. But I mean, I'm noticing my other functions as well, so I don't think that's true. But ex- he's probably learned to express himself more than he was when he was a kid because it's extroverted feeling is like the thing that's forming, I guess now. It's developing, so that could be the case. Is he's just developing or has already developed extroverted feeling. He's just using it because it's new and it's awesome and it's interesting, I guess. Right? I mean, I'm really talkative at school. I mean, today at school was amazing. It was the first time I had a lot of people. I'm usually the shy kind of introvert. I'm the stereotypical introvert in most cases, unless I'm with my friends, and then I'm the one that's talking more than my ENTP and my ESFP friend. Like, yeah. So, but I had like 5 or 10. I think I had like 10 people, maybe not quite 10 people, but I had a lot of people hanging out around me before school started in like the lunchroom, and it was cool. There were people sitting around me, and I was talking to everyone. I mean, obviously, I got uncomfortable for a little bit, and I had to after school like sleep. I don't know if it was like I had sleep. No, I didn't sleep. I came in, I just watched YouTube for a while, and then I felt better because it made me anxious. I'm gonna say that much. It made me anxious. Then again, I hope I'm not going by stereotypes. Then again, I am the stereotypical introvert, kind of. I don't know. I'm rambling. Okay. Um. Yeah. So yeah, he's probably just really talkative. I'm pretty sure most INFJs are really talkative unless they're like shy. I mean, it depends. I mean, if he's talkative around people that he barely knows, I mean, he could still be an INFJ. He's just is really talkative. I mean, if he seems really extroverted, like to the point where it's like annoying, like to where he will just talk to random people and be totally comfortable with it. I think, oh man, I'm confusing the stereotypes now, aren't I? I think I am. But I mean, if his focus is more on his subjective self, then he's not going to go around talking to people comfortably. Or I don't think he's going to go around talking to people, strangers at random, and like saying hi and like being all friendly with them. So if he just seems stereotypically, let's focus on stereotypes now. If he seems really stereotypically extroverted, like really, like to the point where he could be like an ESFP or an ESTP or like just a really extroverted person who will talk to every. Well, then again, I'm still focusing on yes stereotypes. I'm sorry. Okay, if he's just really really extroverted, to where he will talk to anybody, anywhere, and he's just like overly talkative to the point where it's annoying or something, then that is the problem means he's not an INFJ. I think. I mean, okay, with this whole thing, I will admit I could be totally wrong because the whole theory in itself is up to interpretation, kind of. This is just my take on it, and I hope I answered your question. But I'm really sorry I couldn't just do a video on how to spot an INFJ and then putting like a top 10 like here's where they will be. They'll be at a coffee shop. Like I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have to focus on functions and like mental processes, right? So, but I hope I helped the best I could because helping is something INFJs like to do, and I like to help. Yeah. So, okay, so that was my first Q&A. These answers are probably going to be shorter in the future if I have more people asking questions. I hope I get more people asking questions. I mean, I have 7 subscribers now. That is like the most subscribers I've ever had on a YouTube channel. Besides like my gaming YouTube channel, which I completely stopped doing because it sucked and I didn't like it. Because I don't like to I don't like the gaming thing. I feel like it's overused. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, I hope my answers will probably be shorter in the future because I'll have multiple questions and I'll stop repeating myself and rambling. So yeah, I hope I helped. Like I said, like for that's the 4th time now. And bye because I still need to figure out how to end a video.